Good afternoon or morning if you're on the West Coast. Welcome to the Future Proof Leader. I'm Jessica Rapach, co-owner and founder of Twin Legacy Solutions. Today we have Tom Gabriele, the CEO and co-founder of WISPR, and we'll get into that a little bit later, why his company name is that, because it's really cool. Tom, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time and coming on. Can you kick it off by just telling our audience a little bit about who you are and what you're working on right now?
Sure, great. So as Jessica alluded to, my name is Tom Gabriele, CEO and co-founder of WISPR, and we're connecting top real estate advisors across the country with the 3 million or so hidden opportunities for selling homes or pocket listings or off markets or pre-markets. So our job is to help you as agents and help advisors really find opportunities for their clients through our platform.
Which is so cool. And I know I learned a little bit more than our audience did before this podcast, but tell us a little bit about your journey. So, what problem in real estate, the industry as a whole, made it so that you decided to find a better way to help agents find buyers? Because that's not really something people think about, on a buyer side. So,
Yeah, I think, well, my journey really started probably 25 years ago when I came out of business school. I actually spent a lot of time in the online digital lead gen space working for Experian. I actually spent some time at Fox Interactive and the MySpace team. So I knew a lot about media and ad tech. But over the years, I spent more and more time in real estate. My wife is a realtor, and a couple of things happened. And I've kind of become aware of things as I've gone through my journey. When I spoke to lots of real estate advisors, there's really a couple of things that they struggle with. One is access to all of the opportunities for buying and selling homes for their clients, right? There's the MLS, and there's certain rules and regulations that are out there, but really knowing what's everything that's out there that they can help to support their clients. So there's an access problem. There's also a problem around some of the restrictions and policies that are implemented by the MLSs and NAR, which a lot of agents felt frustrated with in terms of their inability to share opportunities with each other. And then ultimately the data ownership rights. Like that's kind of an ever-present problem that's been constantly fought over the industry. And so we looked at it and said, how do we help these agents deal with these issues? Well, a lot of them have sort of solved it on their own in a DIY sort of a way where they've created these shadow markets of pocket listings and off markets and all this other stuff to try to figure out how to do it. But that really isn't addressing the core problem, which is how do you help those advisors support their clients and find opportunities from them from a network, right? You can try and compel them through policies or provide them better solutions. We've tried to provide them better solutions. So we created WISPR and the WISPR network to allow those advisors to come together and give them the control and the data ownership that they want, not be so restrictive in terms of the traditional policymakers that are out there, but then create the real access for their clients. And one of our core things is I always try to tell people it's not a public versus private discussion. And I think that that's a wrong framing of that conversation. It's really about direct to consumer or a DIY platform like a Zillow versus through an advisor. Many services and many industries require advisory services to help you get the best opportunities, whether it's financial advising, legal advising. You don't just do LegalZoom because everyone should be on LegalZoom. No, you go to an advisor because they're going to help you navigate that process. So we're trying to really help emphasize that advisory role for agents. And really, like to call them advisors, by coming to giving them a back-end solution that gives them that full access and allows the consumer to find it through them. Nothing is hidden or not available, but anyway, so that's what we try to do.
I love that. And since our last conversation, I'm dabbling in the commercial real estate side. I have some, residential, but I always frequently talk to network with my friends and family members. And a couple of them mentioned something that made me think of you. They were like, real estate agents, I could just go on Zillow. I can't be on the MLS, but I can go on Zillow, realtor.com, find these properties myself, save some money. And then I was like, there's this WISPR company. They're doing this like secret network. So if you do connect with an agent that has something like that, that's kind of a huge deal that you have an edge up, which would drive people back to really leaning into having a real estate agent. When I mentioned that, I was like, you don't have to get access to the MLS if you don't use an agent. And then there's these other cool tools that are about to come out or in the process that you're really missing out on. They're like, oh man, I didn't know that. And I was like, yeah. So I almost feel like a system that you're creating is making agents even more attractive to still utilize, right? In the age where everyone's afraid AI is replacing them and stuff. But these things are what makes that human networking. So very important. So I just thought I'd share that with you really quick. But the cool thing about your business that stands out, you have these concepts, whisper and rumor. So that catches my attention. Can you tell our audience a little bit, what does that really mean? Like how do you differentiate between the two?
Yeah, so when I think about whispers and rumors, take a traditional definition of, a whisper. Typically, when you're in, this is in the world maybe not so above board, but in terms of gossiping, right? People gossip about different things. And when someone's whispering something to you, or they're telling you in confidence about an opportunity, you usually can believe that with a high degree of certainty, right? So we look at whispers, and there's a term in the industry called pocket listing. Sometimes they refer to it as a whisper listing. It's actually kind of where I got the inspiration for whisper. And it's something that I've kind of known for a number of years here. So we said, okay, well, if you have an opportunity that is available and it's the consumer or the client wants something confidentially exposed to get an opportunity out there, not that it's hidden, it's exposed to everybody, but there's certain elements that are to allow them to get the best deal in the way they want it. Well, then we have this term whisper. So it's more of a traditional pocket listing, if you will.
Yeah.
Rumors, I think, are really, really creative and really interesting. And what we've done there is everyone talks about pre-market deals. And by default, that always goes to what's coming soon. It's just an earlier version of a direct-to-consumer listing, right?
Right.
Because by on market, it means it goes to MLS. It's usually syndicated, although the syndication rules are being challenged all the time, to Zillow. And people are like, well, I can find it myself. A rumor is really centers around, I'm a homeowner, my life has changed. I'm not thinking about selling, but if somebody brought me a buyer, then maybe I'd consider selling. Well, if I'm a good realtor and I've developed a relationship with you as a consumer, I know that. How do I share that knowledge that there's an opportunity here? It's a rumor. Do you believe every rumor that you hear? Not necessarily. And that's why we've called it. So a rumor is like less than certain that they're going to sell, but if the right deal came along, they would. And so sometimes people have referred to it as, was it the make me move offer? Well, it's not always about the offer in terms of a high price. Sometimes it is. It's about a deal that makes sense for them. And if you catch them at the right time, then people are open to considering it. And that has a lot of factors in it. So we allow this rumor mill to be created inside of our marketplace of whispers and rumors to allow those agents to discover from their colleagues who they have good relationships with. It's exposing that soft relationship to the marketplace and saying, I know John down the street, you don't. Don't door knock him. Contact me and let's go talk to him. Especially if you have a buyer who's been trying to break into a neighborhood. There are plenty of neighborhoods that are desirable where there's just not the right inventory, and buyers are very selective and want very specific units. And that's where the advisor can really develop a lot of value. And I always like to rip on the direct to consumer markets because the photos now are photoshopped and they're
Yeah.
taken at specific angles. They always make the home look better than it actually is. So you can trust your eyes in a photo that you know has been doctored, or hopefully you have a trusted advisor who has similar taste. I almost liken it to, I like wines. I'm by no means a wine connoisseur, but I do know that when I go to the different wine shops and I look at wines and I look at who's scored the wine, there's certain wine tasters that I resonate with more than others. One good example is James Suckling. If James Suckling says something is good, I generally have a similar taste profile to his. I tend to like him. I have others where they've scored quote unquote higher, but I don't like them. And so it is really not about the score in a global sense. It's like, no, I just know that what he recommends, I like. So we're on the same wavelength. Now, I've never had a conversation with him. I don't have trust with the guy, but I've established trust because I've tried his recommendations and they've come true. A
Yeah.
good advisor is going to listen to you and understand what you want and need, and they're going to be able to deliver that for you. So that's what we're trying to encourage in the marketplace. We're not trying to go into the jam as many transactions through as you can. Doesn't matter what the client wants, just get it through. That I think is a bad experience. I think this direct to consumer marketplace, we've got 20 years of experience now or more, where all the information has been splattered all over the web. And just like the news media, I don't know what to believe.
Right.
Right? Is
Same.
that a good
Yeah.
price? Is it a bad
Yep.
price? I needed a good guide. I need a good hero. I need a good person who's going to walk me through this process and do the right thing by me and my family.
Yeah. And I love you're so passionate about this. I want to hear more about your system because I know you put a lot of thought into how the system actually works. Your concepts are on point. They make total sense to me.
Mhm.
Like total sense. So if I'm an agent, let's just
Yep.
pretend I'm an agent, I'm not. I come to you and say, yeah, I want part of this. I want part of this whisper rumor. Like I have my own little network, but I want to make it more systemized. How do you implement that into my business?
Yeah, great question. So There's the technical integrations, which are really seamless and we can handle, we have a site, we can integrate into many backends. That's the technical integration component to it. But what really makes it powerful is you get to decide who is in your network, right? Just
Oh,
like on the social media side. So I took some of my social media expertise, some of my ad tech, and said, well, what makes this really valuable? Well, really, agents who are well connected and have good relationships and have brought good, honest work to the market will work together. They're not hogs where they have to double end deals. They're like, I know and I trust this other broker, whether they're in my or agent, whether they're in my brokerage or not, because we've known each other for a long time. They work above board. My wife just closed a deal, and the guy on the other side of the transaction recommended her to her broker as a possible. Well, I'm not soliciting you to switch over to my brokerage, but he said spoke so highly of you. Well, great. Now, whether she decides to move or not, it's kind of irrelevant. The opportunity is that you've acted in good faith. You've done a good opportunity for a deal. You represented your client well. They represent their client well. They want to do business with you. So we need to strengthen those bonds and those relationships. And yes, there's always competition for transactions because you guys, realtors eat what they do. So I say bring your network in, work together, create your Facebook style groups that you have. So you have your own little elements here, but also you're exposed to a broader network of trusted advisors. And you have a lot of control elements that say, I want to broaden my network and open it up and have access to it, just like you would in like a Bloomberg backend terminal. I have a lot of information. That's what makes me valuable. I'm here, but I also have a really good deep network of folks that have opportunities around homes. They also have buyers that are considering it. And my job as an advisor is to leverage my relationships, that investment in those relationships,
okay.
and get something from it. If you believe your relationship is how fast I can push somebody through the funnel, that to me as a consumer doesn't feel right. And so how do we say foster those relationships, create deep relationships, and continue to move into that? So my system is get into the network, invite your friends, have them join you, create your own specific groups. Great. Now you have a cross brokerage group that when you have a buyer wants and needs, you don't have to wait for the weekly caravan. You place it in there. It's all centralized data. It's very easy to sort and find. Now you guys can work together. And that's the whole purpose. Let's work together to do more for our clients, enhance the industry, lift everybody up, lift the perception of them. You alluded to it earlier. Hey, well, it's on Zillow. I can just do it myself and save myself a bunch of money. You can, right? You can do a lot of things on your own. And I don't know, maybe you're qualified to do it and that's fine. But I do know that, having a good experienced guy that you do trust is great. Like I don't handle my own retirement. I hand that to a professional advisor and I trust that they're going to be out there making the right decisions, understanding what my long-term goals are and what I want. And so they're able to, get properly compensated for their time and their expertise and their knowledge.
Yeah, and it comes full circle. I'm thinking as you're talking, I'm like, as we looked for properties, there's a lot of times where, especially in the commercial space, we had reached out to different commercial agents. And I know you're more on the I think you're on the residential side, but just an example, we reach out to a couple that were highly recommended, but that wasn't even their municipality. Like it wasn't, they're like, oh, well, I don't even do that area, but I know so and so does. And he's a good guy. I trust him. And then everything's so referral based when it comes to agents, especially in
Yep.
the real estate arena. I know it with my little tiny network, it's exactly what you said. I don't know, Josh, but I know Brian, and Brian's amazing, and he's an awesome guy, and I trust him fully. So if he says Brian's cool, I'm going with Brian. The networking is huge. I think it's
Yeah.
definitely huge. And
Yeah.
then when it comes to residential, I'm thinking on that side too. I think that people help each other out too when it comes to a property and I don't know somebody. I just pick any real estate agent off the web or whatever. I don't really know a background. Although I guess my question to you, from the buyer side, this is
Mhm.
strictly a real estate agent network. Is that correct?
Yes. It's an
Okay.
advisor only network. We don't have a consumer facing platform where we use search. So
Okay. But when you actually reach out to potential buyers in the network, can you track people that are, I guess the rumor is that they could sell their property or they, is
So,
that
yeah,
track?
great question. Let me clarify a couple things. Number
Yeah, yeah.
one, A lot of what we modeled is after the way commercial agents work, and we have a commercial division. So while we're a
Oh, cool.
residential, we do resi, and that's where I started. I have a lot
Oh,
of commercial clients coming on because I do business exactly this way,
yeah.
and I've got data overload that's
I
bad.
love
So we
it.
skinnied it up. So we do actually support because a lot of agents will have a foot in both client camps. In fact, some of our resi agents or some of our commercial agents, like, yeah, I'm a guy who owns 13 strip malls is also a home buyer and he's looking to do it. So how do I service him?
Yeah.
Now, that's the idea is you may hand them off as a referral, you may not. But because it's advisor only, the advisor brings the buyer into the marketplace. The buyer doesn't say, I'm searching for this. What happens is
Gotcha.
the advisor is like,
Okay.
I have a client who's searching for this very specific buyer wants and needs. And it's the analogy is caravan. You go to any caravan or you go to any kind of meeting where agents are getting together, like, I got a buyer's wants and needs for a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, roughly this, and this is roughly their budget. And the goal is like, do you got anything that you can even think of? Because they're not finding anything on the MLS. Even if there's a lot of inventory, they're just not finding what they like. Do you
Yeah.
got something? So they're constantly opening that access. And so we're saying, well, if that guy has a roomer, he has a homeowner who's like, well, the kids just went off to college. There's no one left in the household. They should be thinking about downsizing. Well, if this person's motivated enough, the house fits their needs because somebody else just raised their family. My job is to bring those two together. I'm to broker those folks, just like any business, whether it's high-end watches or cars or even like the antique guys. Like, hey, I got a buyer. I found this opportunity from an estate sale. I know someone's in there. Those guys do that. And that process is the common thread in all brokerage relationships, from investment banking to investing to, again, collectibles. They all work the same way. Why shouldn't real estate work this way? How do we do that? So what happens in our market is that advisor is able to bring the buyer's wants and needs actually in a confidential way. So they're not giving up who the client is or any of the client details. They're just saying, I have a client with a specific search criteria. Now, as a good advisor in the market, I'm going to have a good reputation with the other folks. They should want to work with me because they know I'm above board. Because if I'm not, they're going to ignore me. And
Yeah.
that's what really should happen. If you're a bad agent, if you're a bad faith actor, you should be deprioritized. If
Yeah.
you're good and you're trusted and you're well liked and you're well networked and well connected, even if your network is small, it may be deep. That's how you're going to do it. Because I have teams in Orange County. There are 3 or 4 advisors. They're from different brokerages: Compass, England Volkers, Keller, Sotheby's, Berkshire Hathaway. And they're like, yeah, but we're all friends. We've known each other. We've moved around a little bit. We like doing deals together. And we want to share this information in a way that's confidential, compliant, but yet gets us deal flow. Otherwise, we're just picking up the phone, calling everybody every couple of days, sending a bunch of texts, and spending all this time in this analog DIY way, which is just not efficient. And so we're like, well, let's just help you do it. You're going to be some things there. And so that's really about the way they get connected. So the guys who have the rumors or the whispers get connected to the agents who have buyer searches. So we say you should get in there once a week, make sure you're refreshing your data and moving forward.
I love that. Okay, that now I have a clearer picture, which is even cooler because like we are into mixed use properties, right? So what we've been told, again, not Twin Legacy, separate company, is we bought a property, commercial is the bottom and it's residential on top. We've had a heck of a time finding someone that does commercial and real estate that feels comfortable doing the both, but we have
Mhm.
an outstanding commercial real estate agent. And whatever he recommends for me to go with for the residential part of the building, I'm going to listen to him. Like whatever he recommends, he's been on point, awesome communication, very diligent worker. He's gained my trust and confidence. So when he says, "Oh yeah, hire Tom. He's going to be your best bet for residential." Tom's my man. So that networking is huge. It's huge. It's huge.
Yep.
So I love that. And I'm a
Yep.
systems girl, so I was trying to figure out the pieces and how they connect together, and that's multifaceted, which is amazing. And then when it comes to tracking and follow up, does
Yep.
your system help? I know that's something in this field where you need to do a lot of nurturing, a lot of following up. How does that work? Is there a component to it?
So yeah, within our system, really the follow-up was with the colleagues, right? The colleagues should be collaborating more. You talk about this a lot. You need
Gotcha.
to be
Yep.
collaborating and doing it. What I find is I will talk to realtors, and if I hear anything, so I'm still learning how to make that a better process. They know they need to be nurturing their
Yeah,
consumers,
of course,
right?
of
And there
course.
are
Yeah.
plenty of folks, Tom Ferry, all these guys, these coaches out there, be in front of your people. I'm like, yeah, you should. You shouldn't go
100%.
broad. You don't need to speak to 1,000 people, right? If you spoke to 50 deeply and you develop relationships with them, 3 of them are going to transact this year, which already puts you in the
Oh
top
yeah.
producing agents, right? So
Absolutely.
just focus on 50, new 50, or keep 50 and rotate them through. So from that perspective, what we do is if I hear that an agent's not being responsive to another agent's request, we have notifications that are very controllable, unlike some of the
Great.
competition out there that focus on, again, they focus more on some of them just off markets in general. We do a more broad set, but we do really say agents, if you're not being responsive, you're going to get deprioritized, you're going to get less and less and less connected, and it's
Yeah.
going to make you look bad. So you really don't want to do it. So we always try to do that self-policing. I'm a little bit of a free market libertarian in that regard. It's like you guys should be policing yourself to figure out how
Oh,
to
yeah.
work above board. And so you really should be following. If you're not, I'll kind of hear it and then I'll come back to you and say, "Hey, I heard from so and so that this happened." And that's really my one of the value adds that we bring is that we are so high touch. I believe in the relationship myself. Most of my job is actually in the field talking to agents and representatives. So I'm figuring out all of those really rich relationships I have so that when I bring on staff, hey, you're going to be in field. This
Yeah.
is think about like my first job out of college, my first real job, I should say, was in pharmaceutical sales. And
Nice.
you show up at doctor's offices, and we had a retail product. And so I'm giving out samples. And so there wasn't a lot of, it's not a lot of hard selling, but there's a relationship you had to develop, trust you had to develop with those
Oh, yeah.
folks. And so we do that with our clients too. Listen, if I just sold you software and dined and dashed and walked away from you, you'd never use it. How do I get there and say, look, there's a better way here where you guys can work together and we're going to help you out, and I'm here to help you. Right. I'm a resource for you as much as anything. And so that kind of hand holding and that interaction has really, really paid off over these last 6 months since we've really attacked a single market and gone in there and I'm in the field. People see me, whether they're a customer or not, they see me around their office. It's like, I've seen you. What are you working on again? I see you're working with John and Susie. Yeah, I'm just helping them. I'm not here to cold call sell you. I'm just helping them leverage the platform because it's new tech and they like it and it's how they work. And I'm just showing them how to use it more efficiently. And I think that's the thing. And that just continues to snowball on itself and resonate and amplify the experience.
And I love that. I think in the age of all the technology that we're seeing rolling out, there's not many businesses that are taking the time to actually make sure that the technology they're selling, their customers and consumers are actually using it to its full degree.
Right.
And I think we're on the same page. I would never want to sell anybody a system or any kind of like platform and then not fully understand that they are optimizing the use of it and what they're spending their money on. I think that's awesome customer service on your part, and I love it. Love
Yeah.
everything
I mean,
about it. I want to talk lead generation. I know you have a history in this too. We talked a little bit about, agents spend thousands and thousands of dollars on online leads, Zillow, Facebook, referrals. So what do you think, where do you think traditional lead gen models fall apart?
okay, so this will go take you back a while. So when I started, I actually worked at Experian and we bought a lot of lead gen businesses for the Experian brand, which was free credit report. And we believe there are major life categories that would line up well to cross sell these opportunities. So if someone comes in for a free credit score, why are they looking at their credit? Well, they might be looking to refinance their house. So we bought Lower My Bills and said, hey, we got this lead gen where we can help you refinance. And we made hundreds of millions of dollars doing that. And
Yeah.
at the time, and this will kind of show you, I'm going to set up the fall of digital leads. We were advertising on Yahoo back in 2000, or Lower
Oh,
My
yeah.
Bills was. They were the largest advisor on Yahoo's homepage. Now, at the time, Yahoo homepage was still really, really relevant. And so the banner across the top, they would own. And they would spend probably $100 million a year. I don't remember the exact number, which was their largest advertiser. They loved Lower My Bills, and they had the dancing cowboy and the this and that, and they were getting all sorts of people to fill out the information that they would hand it off to finance people. But like every market, now this was coming out of the 2000 dot-com bust. So people really hesitant. How do you make money? And ad revenue was kind of a scam in the early 2000s because people say, I'll spend $1 million on your site, you spend $1 million on mine. We'll both book $1 million on our balance sheet, but we don't have to trade any cash. And so everyone's like, look at this revenue. That's why these dot coms had all this revenue, but no cash. And that imploded them. So not to go back in a history lesson to too far back. But so when these guys were doing lead gen, it was real revenue. They did have advertisers or consumers or people paying them for that lead information. But what happened is, as more people got into the market, it got more expensive. The margins got compressed. The cost of the media went up. And then the media companies developed a lot of technologies to capture that because you have people who have the eyeballs selling it to people who want the eyeballs. You can't serve two masters in that world. You're sort of sitting in the middle saying, well, my technology is better. So there was a huge run up in ad tech. But then MySpace was there and we had an advertising marketplace because you had eyeballs, right?
Yeah.
Facebook started getting eyeballs and everybody ran to Facebook. And people don't remember when KV Core was conversion. They were very aggressive early days, 2012, 2013, 2014 with Facebook. And I don't know if I have my dates exactly right, driving a bunch of leads from them. Guess what? Then everybody jumped in. And now it's very hard to make the margins work. You're spending thousands for the occasional lead. So whenever the eyeballs move, you just go to the next market. Then it's Instagram, then it's Snapchat, now it's TikTok. Who knows what it's going to be tomorrow? And now you've got AI tools coming in and saying, well, I'll just do that work for you. Again, this is where I go back and say 20 years of online access to information has led to interruptions of the relationship. And
Yeah.
I think a poorer experience for consumers, so much so that they say, why do I really need you? I'm not sure what the value you're bringing is. So we're trying to hit the reset button a little there and saying, you need to go speak to an advisor. We have a core software and access portal that gives them access to inventory. You are not being hidden. It's not being hidden from you. It's just being rerouted through a different gate. The advisor, anyone with a state license, anywhere in the country can see it and help their clients out. That's what it should be. So by having that built out that way, the lead gen model, we say, not that you can't do it and you can't try to get to new people, but let's refocus your efforts on doing the traditional lead gen, meeting people, asking someone for a referral, and doing it that way versus let me just spend thousands of dollars to drive as much media through a funnel, to try to get AI to engage with you, to send you a million drip emails that you're never going to open and read. Now they're hitting you with text messages. You're saying stop. You still get, it's like too much media overload
Yeah.
that I know I'm not even speaking to a person about.
Yeah. I feel
And
like in
I,
your industry specifically, it's so important. That human connection is
yeah,
so important. Yeah, it's a
yeah. And
commodity.
what's interesting is when I spoke to the most productive agents, the best ones, solution that they kept saying was, and I've said this to folks who something about getting a real estate, I go, what you should do is don't spend $20,000 on leads and technology. Take that 20 grand, spend $2,500 a month at your local watering hole for the market you want. Restaurant, bar, whatever. Sit there every day. You show up every day. Talk to the bartender, talk to the cocktail servers, the waiters, the waitresses, everybody. Get to know the people around you because those people who keep coming back are the people who live in the neighborhood. And you're going to get to know everything about everybody's home and everybody's family and everything. You do that after 6 months, you will have trust with them. And then eventually they'll come and ask you, hey, what's going on in the real estate market? You're not selling them. You spend that and invest that money in those relationships, you'll have 10 highly actionable clients versus all that money on lead gen and you hope you have your system set up. And honestly, they're very difficult. Like I struggle and I'm in tech. Set them all up again because they change all the time. People are changing the way you do them. Look, Facebook ads are a mess. I try to get in there, I go, I don't even know how to buy the ads. I had to hire a consultant to do it. And now it's like, well, now maybe I can set a Claude agent to do it. Fine, great. It's not helping me connect with my clients anymore. So I see that struggle with those traditional lead gen models that are out there again and again. Where technology is good is what we're doing right now. You and I got connected through a network. I think it was through LinkedIn. And then we spoke, and now we've had a couple of conversations face to face. We're developing a relationship. Yeah, this is beautiful because I would have never met you being in New York and me being in California
Right.
unless you happen to come across a conference. So that part of it is, I think, a wonderful development, a great use of technology. Let me just place it in the middle of two people so that they can talk. And I've got a hypothesis on where I think that takes the economy, which is probably not always shared with the wizards of smart that are out there. But we can all have opinions.
Yeah. Well, we're huge. I'm huge at relationship based building. I mean, I think that we do all in at our company, we do marketing, sales, lead gen as well. But I think the most successful to date has been the relationship based lead generation. And that you have to be invested to do it. You have to find the time. Like I said, it does take a commitment of your time to actually get to know people. But when you're especially like we have financial clients, I'm like, you're asking someone to hand over their whole financial portfolio to you, all their money, all this stuff. They don't even have that relationship with you. You need to do some relationship building. Like that's going to earn the trust, whatever. Same with buying the house. You're about to live in this house that you're going to raise your whole family in for the next 30 years. You really need to trust that the agent knows what they're doing, or we're going to make some connections here. So I'm huge on relationship building. That's the whole point of this pod. Like we set up the podcast. I was like, you know what? I was like, we need to start talking to people. I think
Yep.
that any business owner that's not out there trying to form relationships in any kind of industry about anything that can relate to what you're doing, I think it's a mistake because I meet some
100%.
amazing people. I learned so much. I've learned more on this podcast than I've have in college doing like leadership management, Marine Corps, all that stuff. I'm just learning endless amounts of knowledge and connection. So I
Yeah,
love it.
and I think you just again holistically and systemically in our society, that's what we need. The more
Oh,
we do
yeah.
this, the more we develop the relationships, the more connected we feel, the more the differences that we have melt. And we become that melting pot, if you will, because we found shared commonality. To me, connection comes from commonality, not differences. If you're always pointing out, you do this, I do this, you do this, I do this, we're totally different. Well,
Yep.
then you're not finding common ground. You're not finding the things that you share that will build something if you're not
Absolutely.
trying to do that. And so that, and again, I think that's where, again, if I talk about my purpose of building this, my more altruistic purpose, maybe is the right way to say it, is this is what we should be doing across the board in every facet of our lives. If we were doing this, yeah, you know what? Maybe I don't have a million followers, but I have 50 people that I'm really, really close to, and my life is richer for it.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make money from ad revenue off a million subscribers because the algorithm, this crazy weapon that supposedly exists out there, is feeding people more garbage. I
Yeah.
just don't, again, I started in ad tech and I saw it. I'm like,
It's frustrating.
but I'm
Biggest
in my,
thing.
yeah, right. Like I'm a father of three children. I'm a husband of 17 and a half years. And I see the importance within my own family. I see the importance within, my extended family, within our neighbors. And this is my one little part to do it in this industry. Can I get people to operate in a really relationship heavy way? And you'll be just as successful. And for people who aren't, and maybe they're not comfortable, well, maybe that's because this isn't the right business for you. There are other businesses where you will feel more comfortable. I believe that connection is the most important thing in life. And so here's how I do it here. Because if you think I'm just going to keep jamming things through and creating a brand for myself that's not personally connected, that to me, that's sad and that's unfortunate. Maybe it's not as sexy as people want to see, but I think it's the most critical thing. And I'm really passionate about that.
I think in the long run, people win in this game that actually have that the genuine heart to make a connection or to have their business ran not on making multi-million dollars. Yeah, would that be cool and the dream? Yes. But like you said, this is our job, right? You want to have an impactful job. You want to make a difference in society and hope to God that people stand up their businesses to actually make a positive change in society or the economy. Like you said, human connection, like you're literally connecting people, which is amazing. I think like at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, right? I totally agree with you. And
Yeah, and I was just going to say, like, and the more you connect with someone on an opportunity or a deal and you actually interface with them and it was a good experience, to me, that is so valuable. I don't know how you put a number on it. And your life will be enriched from that. In what way, I don't know. Everyone gets enriched a little bit different and everyone has their own, understanding of the world. But, and I always joke around, right? The old Marvel Iron Man comment where Robert Downey Jr. says to Dad, hey, I got this pearl of wisdom. No amount of money bought 1 second at a time. And every second in front of you is worth more than the one that just finished. So, because you don't know when the end of this comes. So, think about what's really important. Think about what's going to help you feel more fulfilled. And no matter how much money you have, it doesn't mean you're going to be more kind or less kind. Kindness doesn't cost anything. Being a
100.
good person doesn't cost anything. So, is that what's most important? Like we all have to make money. We all got to live. I get that.
Yeah.
But the money will be there. You got to trust in your higher power. I've got mine, through God and Jesus.
I
But
was gonna say
yeah,
we're Christian-based companies, so I have no limits on saying like, God's plan for us because that's what
yeah,
we
and he
want.
can,
We're a Christian-based
and
company.
if you ascribe to the Christian model, right?
Yeah,
You believe, look, he is all powerful. He can change he can change your circumstance here on this earth in an instant. And we've seen
absolutely.
it again and again and again for
Yeah,
better, and sometimes it happens not so good. But
yeah,
there's always a purpose to it. I'm not here to figure out what that purpose is, and I'm human like everyone else. When I have things that don't happen the way I want, I get frustrated, and
yeah.
that's part of our growth. It's okay, but the goal is to still come back to him, right? And again, we can go off on that tangent.
I
I'm
know.
sorry,
Well, I
but
always joke. I
yeah,
literally, like my business partner, I was like, if you asked me 20 years ago, because I met one of my business partners, there's four of us, but her and I go way back to college and we did the brains together and whatever. I was like, if you told me 20 years ago that we would be here doing this and doing what we've done, I would have laughed at you and said, there's no way that I would ever do that. There's no way. It's just, it's funny the twists and turns that the road leads you on, like to find your purpose in life. So if you don't feel like you're making an impact, I don't think you found your purpose yet. But I
yeah,
love this because this conversation is ending in like your holistic view for Whisper, right? a
Yeah.
whole collaborative network of people that are like-minded, that are want to serve other people, buyers in the industry, and get them into their home of 30 years, get them to connect with somebody in their area where they're struggling to find, I've been there trying to find land, and we have a, little American dream to have a cabin for our kids to run around in. Well, things go quickly and it's a lifetime dream for us. So it's like it would be nice to have a little agent who's running around trying to find that whisper or rumor of something up and coming that I can grab before somebody else does and stuff like that. So love what you're doing. Tom, where can people find you? So there's going to be agents watching this. Where can they find your system so that they can be a part of it?
Yeah, they can all go to wisprnetwork.com, and it's WISPR. So it's a little bit of a Silicon Valley spelling for the word whisper. No H, no E. So wisprnetwork.com. You can request to reach out to me there. You can always send me an email, tom@wisprnetwork.com, and I'm always happy to walk people through it. You can sign up on the site, but I think you're going to walk into a Cadillac and not know all the different features of the Cadillac. So before you do that, I would just encourage you to come in. You can, if you're really technically forward thinking, you can, but there again, there's so much around the networking element and the collaboration components to it. You may just get focused on, well, there's a marketplace and I see opportunities. Yeah, there's that. But how do you use that in an efficient way to really support your clients and what you're doing? So let me walk you through it and I can show you how it's done. But those are the two best ways to do it. So wisprnetwork.com is the URL. Tom at Whisper Network to email me directly, or you can go to the website and request more information. That's the other way to get a hold of me.
And I'm going to try to have Tom, I'm going to convince him to do a webinar. We'll release that
Yeah.
soon. He's going to have
Yes.
a webinar.
Okay.
So to everyone listening, thanks for being on the show. Tom, thank you. Really impactful. Loved it. Learned a lot. And I think what you're doing is amazing. So
Thank you.
congratulations. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you so much.